they're finding out now that their children have been bombarded with this stuff. They've had it. The timing for Disney could not have been worse. For them to not read the bill and then to speak out and take all this action against the bill that they didn't even read, obviously, because they had it completely out of context. Why would Disney be against a bill that went after the sexualization of kindergarten to third graders? That's all it said was you're not going to talk about gender dysphoria and gender and sex and all this stuff, but for kindergarten to third graders. Who would have a problem with that? Anybody who talks to kids of that age is usually arrested for exploitation of a child. I mean, it's illegal. Why are they doing it in the schools? Think about it for a minute. I mean, it's just, you don't do that, okay? If you cannot talk about those things in your workplace, or human resources are going to get called because it makes somebody uncomfortable in the workplace, why are you able to talk to a first grader about it? Just saying. I'm just saying. So what's happened? Disney came out full boat against the Georgia law, the Florida law that just tried to protect children and said, you're not going to be talking about this stuff to these young children. Just let kids be kids. Let them have a good time. Teach them how to read, write, and do math, and learn their colors and learn how to count. That's all you got to do. Pretty simple. Really reminded me of the Georgia law, voting law, that Major League, that everybody blew up over, and they took it completely out of context, completely lied about the bill. Well, Disney did that. They should have read the thing. Now, the state of Florida, the Senate in the state of Florida has voted in a very strong vote to take away all of Walt Disney World's tax privileges. Okay, now I see a lot of people celebrate about this on Facebook. You got to understand, the reason I told you that I worked at Disney, it's not something I often talk about. It was 20 years ago. Who cares, right? But the thing is, I know the inside of that is Disney has their own, electrical grid. Power goes out from hurricanes, the whole Central Florida may be out power-wise, Disney's got power. They have their own water system. They have their own water tank. You've seen it at MGM Studios, the big water tank. They have their own police force. They have their own everything. Instead of being a burden because of the massive size of that place and the massive tourism and all the guests, instead of being a burden to the local police force and the local water and sewage and electric and all that stuff, they are a self-contained unit. 47 acres with all those hotels, thousands of hotel rooms, all of those restaurants. They are self-policed. They are a self-contained unit, guys. The police officers don't have to go to Disney. Disney has their own cops. Now, they'll call the sheriff in. They'll bring the sheriff in if they have to. They have their own investigators. They have a whole fraud division that investigates any fraud that goes on at the hotels when people are trying to rip off the hotels or steal or do cheating I ran into that working in the travel company. People who were trying to do fake hotel bookings and fake, doing cyber attacks and stuff, trying to book airlines and rental cars and stuff. I saw those, a lot of times I saw those crews from the fraud department in there. They're white collar crime guys. And then you'd have employees trying to steal. They policed all that stuff, and then they got the criminal charges together and then turned them over to the regular cops. But here's the point. Yes, there's a point. The point is, all the tax dollars that go to the firemen, the police, the water, the maintenance of the infrastructure, the roads, everything inside Walt Disney World's 47 acres is handled by the Reedy Creek Management Company. It is not done by the locals. Now, if the Florida, I keep saying Georgia, I apologize. If the Florida legislature, it's passed by the Senate, it has to go to the House. They are in a special session that's been called by Ron DeSantis, by the governor. If the governor decides if the House votes and then the governor signs it into law and Reedy Creek goes away and now they're just part of the Lake Buena Vista local, Lake Buena Vista is going to have all the roads. They're going to have the police. They're going to have the fire. They're going to have the water. They're going to have everything because Disney hasn't been paying the taxes for them to do it. Disney's been doing it all by themselves. People don't realize that. This is very complicated. How are you going to separate that? And how are you all of a sudden going to say, we're having to pay millions of dollars into taxes into Florida? Well, you don't have Florida state income tax, or Lake Buena Vista, Orlando, whatever. Now we're going to be under the health inspectors for all the restaurants, the health inspectors for the theme parks. Disney's been self-doing that, and they've been cleaner than anybody else in the country. The place is spotless. They got the little broom guys walking around sweeping up everything. They keep that place spotless. I just don't know governmentally and money-wise how they're going to do that transition. According to the bill that's attempting to be passed, it's not going to happen until June of next year. They're going to give them a year to transition out. I don't know if that's going to be a burden or a blessing. Are the tax dollars going to the local government going to be able to pay for all the extra services they're going to have to provide? That's going to be interesting. And as an auditor, that's kind of fascinating to me. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going to work. I don't think Disney took this seriously. I don't think they were in there saying, wait a minute, guys, you've got to understand what impact that's going to have on the local community. We dissolve our police department and fire department, and what about all the infrastructure that we got? Anyway, that's what's going on at Disney. What's going on with Netflix? Guys, Netflix stock tanked. I hope you don't own Netflix. I really hope you don't own Netflix. Well, first of all, when Trump came into office, Barack Obama and Susan Rice went on the board of Netflix. So you should have sold your stock then. You should have sold your stock then. Netflix has gotten so woke, it's actually incredible. We got some Virginia in the house. I'm looking to see who's here. I see Virginia. I see a couple of Virginias in here. I see some Georgia. I see some South Carolina. I'm starting to see who's on. Let me just check with you guys real quick and see how you're doing. There's Carl. There is Carl. And I'm sorry it's so late, Carl. I know. But it's good to see you. There's Beverly Kiss. Good to see you, Beverly. Thank you. Oh, look, I got 100%. Thank you, Penny. Appreciate it. Hey, Lucy Lou. Good to see you guys. And Angus. Dr. Sandy, what are you still doing up? My friend, what are you still doing up? You're up so late. You're never up this late. It's crazy. You must have had a late baseball game with your grandchild or something. Good to see you, Dr. Sandy. So anyway, I just want to give you I'm always want to give you a different perspective. Okay. I just want you to see a different perspective. You look at the people don't realize that. So, hey, now you know something that other people don't know. Now you know a whole other aspect of that Disney situation. They got to get rid of the wokeness. The wokeness, go woke and go broke. That wokeness is going to kill them. They are going to lose customers. They are going to lose their streaming. They're going to lose streamers. They're going to lose. I mean, people will pull out. People are fed up with this stuff. I mean, look at the school boards, parents at the school board meetings, and all the backlash that's going on. Disney, you do not want to get in the middle of that. You need to back up and treat and go back to Winnie the Pooh, man. Go back to innocence. Give our children back their innocence. Give them back their innocence and get this gender garbage out of there. Let them be kids. Let them worry about that after they go through puberty. Okay? When they're 18, 19, 20 years old, they can figure it out then. Every kid's going to go through puberty. You're just going to go through puberty. Okay? And people should not be in their ears confusing the daylights out of these kids when they're going through puberty and they're uncomfortable with their bodies and everybody's screaming in their ear, you're uncomfortable in your body, you must be trans. That is so stinking ridiculous. You're confusing these young people. Just let them grow up and just be. And if they want to make a decision as an adult, they can make a decision as an adult. Hopefully the church has got hold of them by them and let them know God's destiny on their life, because God has destiny on every single person. Every single person. These hormone blockers and the stuff they're giving these kids, I'm getting way off subject tonight. And I probably should not, because Facebook's not going to like this very much, so you better hit some likes and loves and stuff. But, it causes sterilization. I look big picture. I'm looking at, if you have done a medical treatment to a kid that's 13, 14, 15 years old or younger, that is going to sterilize them for the rest of their life and they cannot have children, you have just blocked their bloodline. Their bloodline that was destined, and the destiny on their life set before by the Lord. Their grandparents, their parents, even their great-grandparents and those before them, all the generations coming down, passing down through that bloodline. Now that person, when they become an adult, cannot have a natural child and have a family. Bingo, somebody got it. Somebody got it. Thank you for the stars. Now you just got where I'm going with this. This is the devil cutting off your bloodline. Confusing him as a child, the devil getting hold of him as a child, confusing him as a child, allowing other outside forces to come in to give him hormone blockers and all this other stuff that sterilizes them so they cannot have children in the future when maybe they decide to be gay, maybe they decide that, hey, what happened? Why did y'all do that to me? I want to go back. There's thousands like that. But now you've prevented that bloodline. The devil has broke the bloodline for the generations that could have come. There won't be any children. There won't be any grandchildren. These parents are not thinking about that. These parents who are letting their kids from little bitty kids, oh, you're acting like a tomboy. You must be a boy. This is so stinking ridiculous. I was a tomboy. I should have never been a boy. My mother said to me, she's up in the nursing home. My mother said to me a couple weeks ago when I was up there with her, she said, I'm so glad things were still innocent back when you were growing up. Well, they weren't really innocent. I mean, it was it's pretty, I mean, we were poverty. Okay, it was poverty. Okay. And survival. I learned survival. But I was a tomboy. I was the only girl in the neighborhood. I played football. I played street hockey on roller skates, and I was a little tomboy. If I was in my day today, been the tomboy that I was back then, when I was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, they would have been trying to turn me into a boy. I'm not. That is so absurd. That is so absurd. But I can imagine the pressure they would have. I can just imagine what these kids are going through today. Protect your grandchildren, protect your children. Just let them be kids and let them play. Just because somebody, it's just nuts. I'm going to get in trouble if I go any further, so I'm going to stop. I really had some other stuff to talk to you guys about. I want to talk to you about Netflix. Talk about going woke and going broke. Netflix had lost up until this week. This is earnings week. All the companies are reporting their earnings. So you're going to see some big fluctuations in the stock market because like Netflix, they were expecting Netflix for the first quarter of the year, January to April, January, February, March, first quarter of the year, they thought Netflix was going to gain 200,000 clients, subscribers. No, excuse me. The analysts thought that Netflix would gain 2.6 million new subscribers. They didn't. For the first time in 10 years, they lost subscribers. They lost over 200,000 subscribers in the first quarter. They were supposed to gain 2.6 million and they lost 200,000. Why am I telling you that? Because Netflix lost this year, over the last year to year today, Netflix has lost over 40% of its value. Its stock price has dropped 40%. Today, it dropped another 26%. Netflix is going down the drain. Go woke and go broke, baby. Barack Obama and Susan Rice went on the board and they started putting out all this propagandizing stuff. A lot of you guys watch Netflix. But you know what? They raised the price. Then they took away the thing where you can't share it with anybody. Well, the value's gone. Everybody's going to dump it. But people started dumping it because of the woke and the propagandizing and the far left programming they were putting out. I mean, it was Barack Obama was head of creativity for Netflix. You know what that's going to be about, guys. So they're just going in the tank. Everybody was talking about it on the stock market shows this morning. It was crazy. The inflation goes up. People got to cut back. Netflix reformatting the technology so you can't share it. It's no longer a value. People are like, I got to put money in the gas tank. Inflation's going crazy. I just can't afford Netflix anymore. So everybody's dumping it. I personally dumped Netflix when Barack Obama got on the board because I knew where that was going. So, and I never owned the stock. But if you've got the stock in your portfolio, you might have taken a hit today, even though the market went up a little bit. So that's a couple of things that happened today. I have to tell you about Disney, tell you about Netflix. One thing that I found yesterday when I was doing some research, one of the reasons, amen to that, I love it. One of the reasons that I apologize for coming on late, but I'm not too upset about it because I'm finally getting back in writing mode. And my friend, Dr. Sandy Kirk, is going to be glad that I'm back in writing mode because she's always on me about my writing. Hi from Texas, I'm writing. Yep, there she goes there. I'm writing again. How about that book? I know it. Oh, she's on me to get those books out. I have got one big book that has got to be finished. I have got to get it done, but I am so excited to be writing again. I've got to run my business, get my writing done, and do my research and come in here for you guys. And I've got some big news. I have been able to hire some help. Thank you to my partners. Thank you to my partners. And thank you for those of you who have come in and with my business, become clients of my business, and also partners in the ministry. I've got some help. I found a way to be able to pull clips out of my Facebook Lives. He's been able to fix the videos for the very first time ever. I've hired other people to do it. They couldn't do it. He's got it done. I'm going to have clips going up on Rumble, going up on YouTube. My handle on YouTube and Rumble is the same as it is here. It is at Robin L. Rowan. At Robin L. Rowan. Please go like the YouTube page. There's nothing on it yet, but there will be soon because we're getting all the videos fixed. YouTube, find me on Rumble, put it on Rumble. I know my videos aren't there yet, but go ahead and build up so when I get on there, you'll find me. So that's a really, really neat thing. But anyway, in my research, I went back and I looked. You know, I'm always looking to see the strategy. We want to see the strategy of the enemy. Spiritually, we want to know the strategy of the enemy so that we know how to respond. We don't react. We don't want to respond, just be reactive. We want to see the strategy, see what they're doing so we know how to move, so we know how to react. We're going to react with wisdom and patience and not just be reactive and freak out. Okay, that's just operating at a higher level, guys, higher level. I'll go back and I'll look. My lives, I've been doing these since right after the election 2020. I went 7 nights a week for a while. But because I see what's going on in the day, I went back to a year ago today, a year ago yesterday on the 19th. That was when there was a guilty verdict in the court for the police officer that was involved in the George Floyd death. And you know all about the cities being burnt down and all the crazy and all the nonsense going on. What happened at that verdict and what happened to the way the administration used that to politicize the Department of Justice? Yes, politicize the Department of Justice. I want you to see this from a different perspective. I'm going to give you a perspective here. 1 year ago, the guilty verdict of the police officer came down, and Joe Biden made a speech. And a year ago, yesterday, on April 19th, I shared with y'all a big section of that speech, and it was so important because it set the stage for what they were about to do. And guys, did it ever set the stage? Because what you've been watching and what we've been talking about in here just over the last couple of months is all a result of what he did in that speech. I'm telling you, he said, fellow police officers, most of them who wear the badge serve their community honorably. Okay, he did put that out there. But those who fail to meet the standard must be held accountable. And they were today. One was. That was the trial of the police officer with George Floyd. No one should be above the law. Well, that's kind of a joke with his administration, but that's not enough. We can't stop here. Joe Biden said that's the conviction of the police officer in George Floyd. Joe Biden said in his speech following that verdict, he said, that is not enough. We cannot stop here. In order to deliver real change and reform, we can and we must do more to reduce the likelihood that tragedies like this will ever happen and occur again, and ensure that Black and brown people or anyone, they don't fear the interactions with law enforcement. so they don't have to wake up knowing that they can lose their very life in the course of just living their life. They don't have to worry about whether their sons or daughters will come home after a grocery store run, or just walking down the street, or driving their car, or playing in the park, or sleeping at home. Guys, there were only 4 black people shot by white police officers. Okay, the majority of the black deaths and black children's death is done by black on black violence in the big cities. Why are you tying police officers? This was the problem. He tied the police officers, saying that the black and brown people should not have to worry about their kids being able to come home after just going to the grocery store or walking down the street or driving their car or playing in the park and sleeping at home. Guys, the only people that are shot by police officers are people that resist arrest. If you don't resist arrest and you comply with the police officer, you don't get shot. Okay? The kids that are getting shot walking down the street, driving in their car, playing in the park, or sleeping at home is being done by the gang drive-by shootings and gang violence and the drug traffickers within the inner cities. It has nothing to do with the police officers. So he's tying the cops into all black on black violence in all the cities. This takes acknowledging and confronting head on the systemic racism, here we go, and racial disparities that exist in policing and in our criminal justice system more broadly. You know that state and local government and law enforcement need to step it up, as so does the federal government. And here we go. This is Joe Biden's speech a year ago yesterday. He's appointed this is what you need to see this. I found this and I dug into this and started researching this and blew my mind. The day of the cop conviction on the George Floyd, Joe Biden's speech said, we have to step up the federal government. I have appointed the leadership at the Justice Department that is fully committed to restoring trust between law enforcement and the community, and they're sworn to serve and protect. I have complete confidence in the Attorney General, General Garland's leadership and commitment. I've also nominated 2 key Justice Department nominees, Vanita Gupta and Christian Clark, who are eminently qualified, highly respected lawyers who spent their entire careers fighting to advance racial equality and justice. So Vanita and Christian, according to Joe Biden, had the experience and skill necessary to advance our administrative priorities to root out unconstitutional policing and reform of our criminal justice system, and they deserve to be confirmed. He put them right up to be confirmed by the Senate, and under all the shadow of all that violence from the George Floyd stuff, the Senate sailed them right through. Who are they really? And what do they have to do with the administration's priorities to root out unconstitutional policing? Unconstitutional policing, you've got 4 people that were killed, and now you've got all these cops shot, which I'll talk about in a minute. We also need the Congress to act. The George Floyd being murdered 2 years ago, they wanted police reform legislation in his name. And, they really pushed that. They couldn't get it passed. Tim Scott, Republican Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, had an excellent, excellent bill that he was pushing forward. The Democrats wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole because it was written by a black Republican. That tells you they are not worried about solving the problem. They're worried about the politics. If you want to solve the problem, you would have passed Tim Scott's bill. So they wanted to pass legislation to the systemic misconduct in police departments and the systemic racism and all this stuff. Well, the bill never passed. It never went anywhere. But look what did go somewhere. Those 2 ladies that he appointed that day, that he talked about that day, but you know what? They weren't about the police. Let me tell you what they were about. This is the politicizing the Justice Department. This is the deep state. This is deepening the deep state. Let's just put it that way. He said, we have to look as we did, we have to look at the George Floyd thing, blah, 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 blah. We must not turn away. We cannot turn away. We have a chance to begin to change the trajectory of this country. It is my hope and prayer that we live up to the legacy. He wants to live up to the legacy of George Floyd, who was a multi-time arrested criminal who was actually suffering an overdose of fentanyl. That's why he was saying, I can't breathe, this because the fentanyl was constricting his lungs. He was dying of a drug overdose. That's why he was freaking out and wouldn't get in the cop car and everything else. They said even if the cops had never been there, he would have been dead within 30 minutes. All that's been scientifically proved. Don't call me a liar. I know, I hear you coming at me. No, it's all been completely brought out. But at the end of the speech, he said, may God bless you. May God bless thee, George Floyd and his family. He did not say, God bless America. This can be a moment of significant change, was his very last line. And guys, they used this totally for politics. The whole thing was blown up for politics, and the whole thing was used for politics. Ever since that day, 2021 marked the highest total recorded cop killings since 1995. I'm talking about violent, deliberate shooting a cop, not just getting caught in something, but shooting of a cop. The highest record since 1995, excluding the 9/11 attacks. 73 officers died in felony killings in the line of duty in 2021. 73 officers died in felony killings in the line of duty in 2021. Now, April 1st, 2022, 101 police officers, just in 2022, from January 1st to April 1st, 101 police officers have been shot in the line of duty. 101 police officers, a 43% increase from 2021. 17 of those were fatal. We've had 17 police officers shot and killed in the line of duty. We got to get some truth in here, okay? They turned against the cops. It all comes from the top. The narrative all comes from the top. You've got the president of the state setting this tone. It's coming from Kamala Harris. It's coming from the left wing and from the squad. And we're going to defund the police, defund the police. Police are the criminals. It's all the police fault. The reason, like Joe Biden said in his speech, oh, it's all because the police, the racism, systemic racism, police killing people is why the kids aren't safe and the kids are getting shot in the neighborhoods. No, it's not. It has nothing to do with it. But he said that, he put that out there, and he made that the narrative, and now all these police officers are being shot. It's absolutely horrific. But let me tell you what happened. The two women that he brought up in that speech, they ended up being the associate and the assistant attorney general of the United States. They are young black women. They came from the ACLU. Can I repeat that? They were attorneys for voting reform and for justice reform at the ACLU. They were not prosecutors. They were not defenders. None of that. They were political activist attorneys for the ACLU, Vanita Gupta and Christian Clark. They have all the experience and skill necessary to advance our priorities to root out unconstitutional policing. Okay, well, guess what? On April 22nd, the very next week, within days of him making the speech, Vanita Gupta became the 19th United States Associate Attorney General and serves as the third highest ranking official in the Justice Department. She supervises, check out this, she supervises the Civil Division, the Civil Rights Division, the Antitrust Division, the Tax Division, Environmental and Natural Resources Division, and oversees grant making for the Office of Justice Programs, Office on Violence Against Women, and the Community-Oriented Policing Services. What is that? Why does the Department of Justice even have an Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services? Because that's the whole defund the police movement. Defund the police and we're going to have social workers go out on their calls. We're going to have the social workers go out with the SWAT teams, and when they go up to the door with domestic violence, we're going to have the social workers go knocking on the door with the cops, and nobody will get shot. Are you kidding me? You're going to end up with a bunch of dead social workers. They don't know how to handle those situations. Well, they're supposed to know how to handle. They don't know how to handle those situations. They're not armed, and they're not skilled in conflict. That is who he appointed to the third highest ranking of the Justice Department. Before she was appointed, from the 2014 to 2017, Associate Attorney General Gupta served as the acting Assistant Attorney General and head of the Justice's Civil Rights Division, appointed by Barack Obama as Civil Rights Prosecutor for the United States. And she spent all of her career before Barack Obama appointed her as the Deputy Legal Director and Director for Synod of Justice and American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU. She was part of the Justice Campaign to promote justice reform. Everything's about justice reform. Everything's about defunding the police. Everything is about putting the social programs up in there. The third highest ranking person in the DOJ, who is the chief law enforcement for the entire United States. The other young lady that was nominated that day, guys, I'm going to show you, I got to show you this. It was Christian Clark. She became the Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division at the U.S. Department of Justice. She leads the broad civil rights enforcement efforts. But guess what she did for the NAACP? She was part of the Legal Defense Fund, where she worked in voting rights. That's right, all about the voting rights. Voting rights and election laws. Voting rights and election laws. That's what she did, was voting rights and election laws. She worked cases defending the Voting Rights Act. She did oral arguments in the D.C. District Court for Shelby County, Alabama versus Holder, which was a huge voting rights case, which they ended up losing at the Supreme Court. And the same arguments in Shelby County versus Alabama, Shelby County, Alabama versus Holder, that really reversed a lot of this stuff. She went in as an attorney in the lawsuit against Georgia's election laws, and made the same case that she had lost all those years before. This is taking the George Floyd, the BLM movement, the defunding the police movement, setting up the top leadership of our Department of Justice with those people, with those advocates, and politicizing the Department of Justice. But you know what? Ms. Clark also never lived in these neighborhoods that she fights voting rights for. She went to a very, very elite boarding school in Connecticut and then graduated from Harvard and Columbia Law School. She never lived in those neighborhoods. She doesn't know anything about those neighborhoods. But right soon after being put in those roles, those two people who were put in the very, very top ranks of the Justice Department, they very soon after, what did they do? It wasn't about the police now. It was about Georgia's election law. In June 2021, Ms. Clark and Ms. Gupta were both in charge of the Justice Department's lawsuit against Georgia's election law. It's all one big circle. It's all one big picture. It is all a big setup and done purposefully. And it's all for politics. The Georgia Attorney General, Chris Carr, called the move a blatant political action by the U.S. Department of Justice that was factually, legally, and constitutionally wrong, alleging that the Justice Department was being weaponized. That is exactly what was happening to the Justice Department. Miss Clark was a boarding school and Harvard alumni, and she said this about the Georgia voting law. You're going to laugh on this one. The provisions we're challenging reduce access to absentee voting at each step of the process, pushing more black voters to in-person voting, where they will be more likely than white voters to confront long lines. And that was a big part of that lawsuit that ended up failing. The big Department of Justice was suing Georgia because they said that blacks would have to stand in line to vote. Well, you know what? They never read Georgia's law because Georgia has like 2 weeks of early voting. Nobody has to stand in line to vote in Georgia. You can go down to vote anytime over like a 2-week period. You can go down and vote. There's absolutely no reason to go to a poll on election day. You don't have to do absentee. You can go down whenever you want. Georgia ended up having to pay untold amount of money with lawyers and everything else fighting the Department of Justice lawsuit against them over their election law. That did not restrict voting. It actually made voting easier. It made it harder to cheat, but easier to vote. It used to be back in the day that if you brought a federal case against something, if somebody was under a federal indictment or had a federal case brought against them, it was a good case. It was a solid good case because the federal government would not waste their time building a case that they could not win. It's not like that anymore. They will bring cases that they'll have the full weight of the Department of Justice come down and bring cases just to tie you up with hundreds of lawyers and thousands of legal hours and cost the state millions of dollars, knowing that they're not going to win the case. They brought the weakest case. They brought the same stuff that the Supreme Court had already overturned in 2 previous cases. I can give you the case law, not tonight. I'll give you the case law. And you look at that. And during that whole thing, even the left-wing media, Vox and Slate and the New York Times and CNN, even in their articles about the Department of Justice lawsuit against the Georgia election law, even in those articles, they say, well, this is one of the first of many challenges that we'll have against states that do these election laws. They were actually confessing that they knew they weren't going to win it. That we've got to fight them. We've just got to fight them. That's not what the Department of Justice is supposed to do. The Department of Justice is to go after crimes that have happened. You don't go chasing a rabbit down a trail, seeing if the rabbit's going to commit a crime. You actually see if a crime's committed, and you go after the big federal and the breaking federal law. Look at the Gretchen Whitmer thing as another perfect example. It's the politicization of the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice had FBI agents, swarms of FBI agents, going in and setting up this whole plot against saying that Gretchen Whitmer was going to be kidnapped. She was going to be kidnapped and she was going to be hogtied and she was going to be held up somewhere until she dropped the vaccine mandates and dropped the COVID mandates. Well, they found a couple of yahoos that were white guys because they had to make that narrative of being white nationalism. So they had to find some guys who didn't like Whitmer, and then they completely set them up. And there were more FBI agents involved in setting up that whole kidnapping plot against Governor Whitmer than there were the poor guys that they tried to call white nationalists that were doing it. They just kind of got caught up in it. They're like, hey, man, we're going to buy all this equipment. We're going to go do this. Oh, okay. And then we're just pushing them and pushing them. The whole thing came out in the courtroom. It fell flat on its face. It was a joke. And the prosecutors need to lose their law license for prosecutorial misconduct. Seriously. There's got to be some accountability to this nonsense. And that was a whole sham. And all it did is it proved that the FBI set that whole thing up. And that led into the big setup for J6. If the FBI was setting that up, and they were using that, the media and the Democrats were using the Gretchen Whitmer thing, going, see, there is white nationalism. We told you. It was almost like they had to invent that entire Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot in order to prove in order to give the media a narrative and to try to prove to the American public, we've been telling you that white nationalism is our largest national security threat. We can't find any, so we got to go create some. And they went and they created some and tried to use that same narrative on J6. And they're using the Justice Department to do all this garbage. It is so wrong. It is making our Department of Justice lose all their credibility. I mean, all their credibility. The head of the Department of Justice is going to be going before Congress soon. This whole thing about going after the school board parents. It was the White House and Department of Justice They called the National School Board Association and got the head of it, who was a left-wing activist, and coached them what to put in that letter, to write a letter to the White House complaining about the parents going to school boards. Within 7, in the White House, they proved, was coaching them to write the letter. They wrote a letter to the White House with the coaching of the White House and the DOJ, put it in the White House, complaining that, oh, our school boards are in fear for their lives for all these parents coming down here and yelling and screaming at them. Within 7 days, the Attorney General of the United States of America put out a bulletin that they were going to go full blown. Anybody who shows up at a school board meeting is going to be they were going to put Patriot Act, Homeland Security, like they would on terrorists. It was like they were making them terrorists. The whole thing was created from within the White House and the Department of Justice to begin with, to go after and try to terrify and to try to silence the parents at the school board meetings. You know what happened? It completely blew up in their face. That National School Board Association has been completely wiped out. Now the teachers union, there's moves in Congress right now to dissolve the teachers union. It's the only federal sanctioned union in the United States. And there is big moves by Republicans in the Senate and the House to dissolve the teachers union. And the school board, National School Board Association, is toast. Now you've got all these patriots running for school board. They're going to take over the school boards, take them back. Guys, it's all one big circle. The more they try to attack the American people, the more the American people rise up, rising up. It is awesome. It's absolutely incredible. It's all being revealed. Kevin McCarthy, who is about to become Speaker of the House when we have a tsunami in Congress in November, he came out and he said, we're doing open investigation. I've told you, how many times have I told y'all? Whoever has control of the House and control of the Senate controls the investigative committees. Those investigative committees have subpoena power and they can make criminal referrals. They have got the power to get it done. Kevin McCarthy announced tonight, this week, a ton of we're going to investigate. We're going to investigate where COVID came from. We're going to investigate the Attorney General and how he went after the school board members. We're going to investigate the head of Homeland Security. You better impeach that head of Homeland Security. We're going to be after you about that, Kevin. Excuse me, Mr. McCarthy. And they're going to go after and they're going to say, we want an investigation to find out who the big guy is. He's talking about Hunter's laptop and all the payments going to the big guy. Everybody knows the big guy's Joe Biden. Everybody knows Joe Biden's finances are all tied up in this thing. Kevin McCarthy is going to put a full investigative committee in the House of Representatives on that thing. It's good. You know what? Enemy always overplays his hand. He is really overplaying his hand right now. And he is they're about to just get completely blown up. They're about to, I didn't say that right. I got to be careful with my words. It is all being revealed. It is all being exposed. Excuse me, my hair's going crazy. It's all being exposed. It's all being exposed right now. So praise God. Praise God and praise the United States of America. We've got hoaxes going on. I have got hair in my eyes and I'm going crazy over here. I'm getting all excited. I get excited. My hair gets excited. Goes crazy. And New Mexico's in the house. There's Maria in New Mexico. Maria, you're so awesome. I'm praying for you and your family. You're so awesome. Why isn't Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, I know what that stands for, being backed by the Republican Party to stay on the ballot in her territory? She is going to be staying on the ballot. She was on Tucker yesterday and said she had to go to court on Friday to stay on the ballot. Well, you know what? I told you guys about that. The Democrats are doing lawsuits going after Marjorie Taylor Greene and Josh Hawley and Matt Gaetz. We've been talking about this for a while. It's absolutely ridiculous. They're filing these lawsuits and saying that because they stood up for the protest of the certification of the elections for January 20th, which you had 18 attorney generals suing. You had all these state legislatures suing, but they're taking anybody in Congress who stood up for that. I don't see them going after Ted Cruz. Of course, he's not in cycle right now. But they're going after anybody who is very vocal about having the Constitution and the Electoral Act says that if somebody can object to the certification of the electors, and if there's a senator and then it goes to debate for 2 hours and all that stuff that was supposed to happen that didn't happen. Well, they're picking Marjorie Taylor Greene and Josh Hawley and Matt Gaetz and all those guys, and they're filing lawsuits against them. Well, the lawsuit's ridiculous. They're saying that they shouldn't be allowed to run for office because they did like treason against the United States or something. It's absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't have a foot to stand on. I don't think anybody's taking it seriously. So I think that's why Marjorie Taylor Greene is not getting, the Republicans aren't like jumping up and down, getting on a bandwagon to help her, because I don't think anybody's really taking it seriously. I think it's just a crazy legal move. Using the courts for politics. What are we talking about tonight? Using the Department of Justice and the courts for politics. That's exactly all that is. And she has to have legal expenses. Donate to her legal expense fund if you want to help her out. You know, they'll tear you up in court. Tear you up in court if you do something they don't like. It's part of the bullying of the woke left. It's just a bullying campaign. So what else is going on in here? We're going to do Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to say goodnight. I just had to really share that big picture with you, because we can look back and we can see everything they've been doing, and we can see exactly what they're going to do and how they're about to move. It's just great. It's just great. Hey, there's Joyce. There is Joyce. Grooming children with a more aggressive indoctrination to stay on the ballot in the territory. Yeah. But it's good to see you guys. A lot of people in here for being so late. This is really nice to see you. Gonna wind this up with the American flag. God bless the United States of America, guys. I love Larry Kudlow. He says the cavalry is coming. The cavalry is coming. Yes, the cavalry is coming. Guys, right now you've got primaries going on. The people who are running for your state legislature are right now, this week, next week, and over the next couple of weeks, they are having meetings all around you. Please get up, get dressed, get in your car, find out where these meetings are and go. See who is running for your state legislature, your state rep or state delegate, whichever they call it, different states, and your state senator. I'm so sorry, I've got all this stuff in my eyes. It's driving me crazy. Your state senators. Hey, I'm live. What are you going to do? Your state senators. Your county commissioners, your mayors, your city council, you need to know who these guys are. You need to know who's running. Go to the debates. They're going on all over the place. If you have, go to on the internet, go to NFRW, National Federation of Republican Women. Even if you are guys, not gals, it can be anybody, guys or gals. National Federation of Republican Women. I've got something in my eye like crazy. I'm sorry. It's driving me nuts. They have meetings. They are having candidate forums, candidate debates. They do all that stuff. And they're everywhere in the country. You will find one near you. 90%. They'll find one near you. Go to the lunches. Go to the candidate. It's a lot of fun. You meet You will meet a lot of really nice people that are patriots just like you are, that love this country just like you do, and that are standing up for everything, the same things you're standing up for. You'll meet new friends. You'll meet new friends, and you'll get involved, and it's all wonderful. And I've got this huge thing in my eye, and I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to do this, and I'm going to go get this thing out of my eye. Oh, that hurts. God bless you guys. Anyway, go get involved. I got some things going on this week, next week. It's all good. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless you. God bless you guys. I will see you tomorrow night. I will try to get on earlier. I do apologize for the lateness of the hour. I started doing some research and started doing some writing, and next thing I knew, it was 3 hours later, and it was 11 o'clock. I apologize, but I'm glad to be writing again. I really, really am. I'm feeling the writer thing coming on me. I love it. So good night. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining me tonight. And for those of you who watch it tomorrow, Good morning. Have your coffee with me. Y'all have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.